Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Wednesday. It is April 3rd. It's 2024. We're going to talk about the 5-game MLB main slate for Wednesday night. And I will be on crunch time tomorrow morning at, I think, 12:15 with Cheese. And we'll be breaking down the early slate after Grinders Live for the early slate. So we'll have some early slate content. So we wanted to focus on the main slate, gives more people to listen and, chance to listen and, make some decisions for the late slate anyway. And I think the late slate's fun. I think the early slate's fun. Tomorrow's going to be a good day of baseball. Excited. And joined today by my buddy, Timothy Buell. Tim, what's happening, my friend?
Yeah, not much, Stevie. I was talking about how I was on the Padres and also considering the Cubs this evening, and I did not play the Cubs and I played the Padres. So now I'm upset. I'm going to lose.
I mean, you haven't lost yet. Padres could have a big game, but I mean, that Bellinger home run helps the Cubs stacks too. That didn't have Cooper. Because, I mean, you kind of had to decide between Cooper and Bellinger. And, I mean, they came in at like 7% and 8%. So, yeah, I mean, I have some good teams going. I'm pumped where I'm at right now for the night. Was very high on the Cubs, very high on the Padres as well. And then, yeah, I mean, pitching so far is off to a good start. The Crochet, man, that guy might be legit. Watched a lot of that start, and he just has good stuff. He's going to be a guy that we talk about a lot this year. So, Lopez pitched really well. He made a couple like bonehead moves on the hill, but overall, he had a really good start for, his first start of the season. Assad pitched well. He came in pretty chalky, actually. He was a lot more popular than I thought, but Bayo had a really solid first inning. I just turned all my games off so I could focus on the podcast. But Bayo had a good first inning, and he ended up being pretty chalky, which doesn't really shock me when you're looking at his matchup against Oakland and the pitching that we had on the slate. So I think he has like 3 Ks. Derek says he had a good Cub stack with Mize. Well, back to the well here on Mize with that game getting postponed. Yeah, that one stinks. The risk, the risk going in of as much weather as they had, but I mean, I like Mize. We talked about him on the podcast yesterday, and we're obviously going to talk about him again on the podcast today. So we'll get there here in just a minute. Hope everyone's having a fantastic Tuesday night. Before we get into breaking down this slate, I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow's podcast, tune in live if you can. We're going to be giving away some fun stuff, some premium, some swag, and have a special guest. So pumped for tomorrow's podcast. It's the 8-year anniversary show of the Morning Grind. Yes, 8 years, a lot of gray hair in my beard, but we're gonna have some fun with tomorrow's podcast. So if you can tune in live, hang out, and I'm gonna do some random stuff to give away some swag and have some fun with the podcast tomorrow. So let's get into this 5-game night slate here. Again, there's some potential weather in these games, but we will let Kevin Roth handle the weather. I'm not messing with that. I let him handle that. We get started here with Pittsburgh at Washington. Mitch Keller against Trevor Williams. Any interest here in Mitch Keller?
So unfortunately, I do. I know that he has struggled in the spring. I know he struggled in his last start. But this matchup is fairly decent, and just due to the lack of pitching on this overall slate, I do have a little bit of interest, unless he's going to be popular. If he's going to be like a chalky option, then I'll be underweight on him. But if he's not going to be chalky, then I think that he's in play just because the slate is so small and our options are limited. And I think this is a matchup that he can beat, and he's not super expensive. But I understand that he has struggled at the beginning of this year and in the spring. So I can definitely see getting away from him if he's going to be popular.
And I don't even know if like struggle is the right word. The velocity being down was my biggest concern with him, and one of the reasons that I highlighted like Marlins his first start. He averaged 93.3 miles per hour in that first start, still down about a mile per hour, but up about 2 miles an hour than where he was at in the spring on average. So, I mean, that's a positive sign for Mitch Keller. We saw his velocity take a huge dip towards the end of last season, and his stats kind of got banged up from the velocity dip. So, it's an ownership thing for me. If Keller's getting some ownership here, I'm out. If he's not, I don't think we have a ton of great pitching. Like we took Scoble off the slate, with the game getting postponed. With the game getting postponed in New York, we went from like having Scoble and like I like Mize, and we're gonna talk about him, but we went from like having Scoble to Mize. So like now the pitching is a little bit tougher than what it was, 2 hours ago when you were potentially looking at the slate. Because I mean, Scoble Glasnow combos were definitely going to be what I was going to recommend on the podcast. I was just going to say, hey, we're going to pay up for pitching, and I'm going to find some value bats. But that's off the table now. So Trevor Williams on the other side of this game, making his first start of the season. I can't believe this dude's still in the bigs. And I don't even mean that in like a mean way. He just hasn't been good. Any interest here in Trevor Williams?
I really don't. I know the Pirates have kind of been overachieving early on in the season, but I have absolutely no interest in Trevor Williams. Like maybe I put him in 4 or 5 lineups if I'm making like 150, just as like hedge lineups. But this guy. I mean, we also have Quantrill on the slate, but I mean Trevor Williams is one of the worst starting pitchers in all of baseball, so I really have no interest in rostering him.
Yeah, no interest in me in playing Trevor Williams. I mean, this is a guy that had 111 strikeouts and 144 innings last year. His swinging strike rate was a career low at 7.9%. And yeah, just no interest. Only generated 16% soft hits last year. So yeah, I'm out on Williams, and very interested in the Pirates here.
Yeah,
you get them on the road, so you're guaranteed the ninth, and honestly, we don't like playing Pirates in Pittsburgh anyway. So I'm interested in Pittsburgh, but like you said, we do have Quantrill on the slate. We have a couple like really bad pitchers on the slate just in general, and I mean Pittsburgh definitely going to be a top end stack for me here.
Yeah, definitely. Like guys like Jack Zawinski, I have a lot of interest in at 3,700. Obviously, Brian Reynolds is always a strong spend up option at 5,200. O'Neal Cruz, 53. They're priced pretty high, so that might keep their ownership a little bit in check. Some of these expensive Pirates, but really, they're in a really fantastic spot. So I wouldn't mind getting to either a 5-man of them or any variation of a stack. I'm in favor for the Pirates.
Yeah, the Washington side of this game, if Keller is like getting steamed up a little bit ownership wise, like I could see myself definitely playing like a little bit of CJ Abrams.
Yep.
I think he'd probably be my favorite option here from Washington. Lane Thomas, he's not like a lefty righty guy. So I don't mind maybe getting a little exposure to him. Ruiz at catcher at 3,900 is fine. Gallo, you can chase the home run. He's probably going to strike out 2 or 3 times. Winker's banged up, so we'll see if he's back in the lineup or not. That could potentially open up a good lineup spot for like Rosario or something. So yeah, I think Washington, if Keller is getting ownership, I think playing some Washington lefties is not a bad idea here.
No, definitely not. If Keller's going to be popular, then I definitely have some interest. CJ Abrams, I definitely agree, is the top Nats bat. I'm going to be playing a lot of him this year. He should always be 5K or above. So anytime he's under that, I think he is a bargain. So yeah, and then the Gallo is strikeout or homer. And then and like Eddie Rosario maybe possibly also is like a cheaper option.
Detroit at New York. The weather looks better. In the night before anyway. So This game has a 7 total. Detroit's a 135 favorite. I don't know if they had changed the line yet for Mize and Hauser facing off against each other yet, but that's what we got. We'll start here with Mize. People already know my thoughts on him. I talked about him yesterday. Do you have any interest here in Casey Mize?
Not a ton. It's not a bad spot by any means, but it's not really like 7,300 first start of the year. There's other guys in that price range that I like a lot more, like the guy that he's facing. So I'm not super interested, but I mean, I think you have to have at least some exposure to him if you're making like 20 or more lineups, just because it's a great ballpark and it's a decent matchup.
Yeah, I mean, at one point was a guy that was a huge prospect, had Tommy John. I mean, really liked what I saw from his like spring stuff. So like I said yesterday, I have interest in Casey Mize here. Great ballpark. This game should be a low scoring game just in general. So on a slate with 5 games and a handful of pitchers at most to play today, I think Mize is in play. I think Hauser is going to be a little chalky here. Adrian Hauser as chalk scares me tremendously. Like, this is a guy that saw a huge dip in his strikeout rate last season, gave up a ton of hard contact, and honestly, like, they can get lefty enough where if Hauser's going to be chalk, he might be a guy I take a stand on this slate.
Yeah, I don't hate that take at all. In a vacuum, I think Hauser is probably the best, sub 8K pitcher on the slate. But you're right. Like, if he's going to be popular, it is a little bit terrifying. But I think the matchup is just so good and the ballpark is so good. So, I mean, ownership not considered, Hauser is my favorite sub 8K pitcher on the slate.
All right, let's talk bats. Any interest here in the Detroit bats?
I guess if you wanted to take a shot on like Kerry Carpenter, I think at 3,800 would be somewhat viable. But not really. I mean, this is about as bad as it gets. Detroit at Citi Field, really bad spot for offense. So I'd be trying to get away from stacks in this game and maybe just picking off pieces here and there as one-offs. Like guys like Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, guys like that.
Yeah, Carpenter, Green, Meadows, 1 or 2 mans, I think is fine. I mean, I assume that like Colt Keith draws the start again because it's the same spot. So if you want to take like a shot on Keith at 2,800, he was projected to hit 6 against, he was in the lineup hitting 6 against Hauser on Tuesday before the rain out. So don't mind Colt Keith if you're just looking for a cheap bet. And then as far as the Mets bats go, I mean, basically the same thing I said yesterday. Nimmo, Lindor, Alonso. I have no issues with any of these guys, but I just, again, want to keep pounding home how bad I think the bottom half of the Mets lineup is this year. And one of the reasons that I have interest in Mize is because, I mean, Batty, Marte, McNeil, Taylor, Batter was the bottom half of that lineup on Tuesday, and I don't think it's going to be different. So I just don't have a ton of interest in the bottom half here.
Completely agree. I do think Alvarez as a catcher, though, at 3,300, pretty good price point. Should be batting 4th or 5th, I would imagine. So Francisco Alvarez at 3,300 is my favorite Met. But you're right. Like, getting to like a one-off of like Pete Alonso, I think is fine. But really, this game is bad for bats.
All right, moving on. We're back in Chicago with the Rockies and Cubs. Cal Quantrill, Drew Smyly facing off in this one. No total up for this one. Very common night before. We'll see what the weather's doing at Wrigley tomorrow morning. I always like the look just to kind of get an idea, but again, like, it just changes so much. Right now, it looks like the wind's going in. with some potential weather again. So we'll have to see what Kevin Roth has to say. I will say I forgot to mention this when we were talking about the Mets game. There's supposed to be like 20 to 30 mile an hour winds blowing dead center in, like blowing in from dead center in that game, which would even help
Citi
those
Field?
pitchers even. Yeah, at Citi Field. So
oh my god, that's
so it would
such a
help
great.
those.
That's such a great pitchers park anyway.
Yep. So those
Wow.
like right over the wall home runs, looking good there. So
I would
looking
even
good
play
to stay in the
one-offs in that.
ballpark.
I would even play one-offs in that game then, and that's a big
Yeah.
boost to Mize also in my mind.
Yeah, just I mean, we'll see what Roth has to say. Again, like I don't mess with weather. I
Right.
looked at the Cubs win and I saw that. So all right. Any interest here in the worst pitcher in baseball, Cal Quantrill?
Nope. He and Trevor Williams, even if I was making 150 teams, would both get the X button for me. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, maybe 4 or 5 Trevor Williams, but like X out Quantrill immediately. No interest at all.
Do you think the books give us Cal Quantrill at 3.5 strikeouts again?
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
I forgot
yeah.
about that. Yeah,
that was one of the biggest bets I made all season so far.
The one of the biggest bets I made was the Chris Flexen 3.5 one. Also,
yeah.
Remember that one? That was like 2 days ago. Yeah,
I wrote that up.
Yeah,
there was a lot of us. There's like 3 or 4 of us that wrote that up. So
yeah,
I'm not playing Cal Quantrill. I mean, we
No.
joke around about it really quickly, but we're not playing Cal Quantrill. I don't think man, Drew Smiley, I don't know if I want to play Drew Smiley either. It sounds like he's going to this is going to be like an opener situation and like a bullpen type of game. I expect Drew Smiley to throw like 2 innings. Like he threw on Monday. He threw 2 innings on Monday. So I think it's an opener situation type of deal here. Cubs potential bullpen game. We'll have to see. Maybe they announce a starter, but right now the information that we're looking at right now is Smiley opening for somebody. So we'll kind of have to see what we're looking at because I mean we love pitchers against the Rockies. Wind blowing in at Wrigley, pitchers against the Rockies with the cooler weather. I mean, if we get an actual starting pitcher here, I mean, depending on who it is, we might have some interest. But I'm not playing Smiley. He's not going to pitch deep at all.
No, even if you
he's a
knew you were
bullpen
getting,
guy.
even if you knew you were getting 3 innings out of him, you can't pitch him at 6,700. If he was 5K, maybe, but 6,700, you can't do it.
As far as the Rockies bats, the weather's going to kind of stink again. I mean, that didn't really slow down the Cubs on Tuesday night, but I think this is a spot we're going to kind of have to just wait and see what we're looking at. Like if it's going to be a full bullpen game, I don't really have a ton of interest in Colorado. And then maybe depending on like who the pitcher is, maybe some slight interest because like the Rockies are cheap. So using the Rockies as like a one-off is not like a terrible thing here just because of the pricing. But it really just comes down to like who the pitcher is going to be.
Yeah, maybe like a one-off of like Brendan Rodgers at a cheap, middle infield position type of idea. But I have no interest in this stat. This Rockies offense is real bad, and if the wind's blowing in at Wrigley, I have no interest at all.
Cubs bats. I mean, I don't care what the weather's doing. Cal Quantrill doesn't miss bats. Cubs are a team I'm definitely going to again here on this slate. I talked about them yesterday. Right back to the Cubbies here.
Yeah, Bellinger is going to be so heavily owned, I would imagine. First base outfield eligibility, gets the platoon advantage against Quantrill. Homered on Tuesday night. So, I mean, recency bias is going to be in his favor also. So, yeah, this Cubs team is absolutely loaded and going to crush Quantrill, I would imagine.
Yeah, don't forget about like Tachman. He should be in the lineup here. Really anybody, like platoon splits don't matter against Quantrill. He's just not good. So when you're looking at playing the Cubs here, just build some stacks. Even in the bad weather, like I mean, Kyle Quantrill had a 7% K rate against right-handed hitters last year, so you're gonna play righties against him too. He just doesn't miss bats. So whoever cracks the lineup today, I mean, Suzuki's off to a scorching start. He had a great spring training, and he had a really good game on Tuesday night. So
how is this guy ever going to pitch at Coors, Stevie?
Oh, Quantrill?
Yeah.
How are we going to fade Coors with Quantrill pitching?
Right.
That's the problem.
He already can't strike anybody out. Like, I'm amazed.
Hey, maybe his stuff is better at elevation. maybe the Rockies saw something and they're like, hey, this guy's stuff it actually does some stuff at elevation, and maybe he'll miss some bats, but yeah. All right. Toronto at Houston. Yeah, Toronto at Houston. We got Bassett and Javier facing off against each other here. Any interest here in Chris Bassett?
It's kind of like a similar situation that I had with Mitch Keller. Like, I don't really trust Bassett, but just the context of the slate, I feel like he's a talented enough pitcher that if Babbitt goes his way, he could get through 5 or 6 innings, strike out 5 or 6, and be somehow optimal. So I do have a little bit of interest in him, but not a lot.
Yeah, no interest for me in Chris Bassett today. This lineup's good, top to bottom. And I have a lot of interest in the other pitcher in this game.
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah.
So looking at Christian Javier, like he really excels against righties, especially strikeouts. And Toronto is just a right-handed heavy team. They're the exact same team that they were last year. And when we get right-handed pitching that excels against right-handed hitters, like all year, I mean, like we saw Christian Javier have a really solid outing against the Yankees. The Yankees are very right-handed heavy. So I really like Christian Javier today. Something that I don't say a lot, but I think this is a really good spot for him.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I would assume that Glasnow and Javier will be the chalk combo for the slate, and then pay up for as many Cubs as you possibly can. But yeah, I completely agree. Javier is in a great spot. He's a really, really strong pitcher. Toronto is extremely right-handed heavy, so this is a good spot for him. And I have no argument other than just the ownership. He's going to be probably the second highest owned pitcher, but really, pitching is ugly on the slate. Very, very, very ugly.
It's not pretty, that's for sure. Bats here, anything on the Toronto side that you like?
I mean, it's a pretty bad spot. I think maybe if you wanted to go cheap, you could go Alejandro Kirk or Dalton Varsho would be options. Varsho's 3,600. Kirk is a cheap catcher, which I always like at 3,400. But I'd stay away from like the expensive guys. This is not a very good spot for them.
Yeah, outside of like maybe building like a hedge stack, because I think Javier is going to be one of my highest owned pitchers on the slate. So like outside of building like a hedge stack and just full on stacking Toronto, I think I'm out on the Blue Jays here. I actually have some slight interest in these Houston bats. I don't think Bassett's a bad pitcher by any means, but it's a 5-game slate. We gotta get off the Cubs. We got to get off the Cubs somehow. And Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's going to be somewhat popular. We'll talk about the Dodgers in the next game, but I think that Houston facing a above average pitcher is going to be lower owned here. And they're just an elite hitting team, and they can break any slate on any given night against any given pitcher. So I think Houston's a really interesting stack today.
Yeah, they're a really good hedge stack off of Chicago. They're similarly priced as Chicago. Like you've got Alvarez at 58, where you have Bellinger at 57. So Alvarez is a great leverage point off of Bellinger. Same thing with Kyle Tucker. So yeah, as a hedge stack away from Chicago, they're fine. Like you said, Bassett's not bad, but you have to take some risk on the slate. So yeah, I don't mind getting to some Houston bats, but they're not my favorite stack.
Oh no, I mean favorite. No, I'm with you.
Well, they're not my favorite hedge stack either.
Bayo is giving up home runs. I don't like it. All right. We finish out. We got a 2-hour gap. Like Dodgers game's going to get kicked off, and most of these games on the early side are going to be over. Giants and Dodgers. Harrison against Glasnow in this one, 8 total. Dodgers a 240 favorite, huge favorite here. Looking at Harrison first, he actually had a really solid outing against the Padres. 5 strikeouts, just gave up a couple of solo home runs. Pitched okay, just a fly ball guy. Doesn't generate a lot of ground balls. And like, I don't know if you want to be a fly ball pitcher against one of the best lineups in baseball. So I don't think I'm going to play Harrison today.
I'm definitely not playing Harrison. I'd rather play both pitchers in the Mets game. I'd rather play Keller, rather play Bassett, rather play Javier. So, I mean, Harrison really falls to the very bottom against this Dodgers team.
Glasnow, I think he's going to be the highest owned pitcher, and I really don't think I can argue it much. He didn't see a huge increase in pitches. Yeah, again, like he pitched that game overseas and then came back here and threw 81 pitches in his first like state start. I think he gets bumped up to like 86 to 88. They're not going to push Trevor Glasnow if they don't have to. The Dodgers pitching staff very banged up in general right now. They should give Trevor Bauer a call. Any interest here in Glasnow?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely. I would try to get overweight him in GPP, must play in cash games. Definitely going to be the highest owned pitcher on the slate. Not even going to be close. I wouldn't even bother making Giants hedge stacks, to be honest with you. I love Glasnow in this matchup.
I have no interest in the Giants bats today. If the Giants are that team that like goes off, I just know that I'm going to lose. Glasnow is likely going to be one of my highest owned pitchers. I don't even think I'll build a hedge stack with the Giants today.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I really wouldn't.
Dodgers, though, I mean, fly ball guy, a lot of power. They're expensive, and I think that is what potentially keeps the ownership down on the Dodgers today is just the pricing. I mean, like Teoscar, he's hitting the ball really well to start the season. You know, he talked a lot in spring training and this offseason about like how hard it was for him to see the ball in Seattle with the background in center field. So he's seeing the ball very well in LA. He has 4 home runs already. So I don't know if it's a thing or not, but, maybe it's a confidence thing. But we're going to get some cheap bats with like Kiki and Taylor and, I mean, maybe Rojas. But, yeah, I mean, Betts, Hernandez, Smith, Ohtani, Freeman, all these guys. Hopefully they go a little under owned just because they're expensive.
Yeah, I mean, this is how I'd want to get different away from the Cubs. To be honest with you, I know they are expensive, but if you can get a couple of the cheap guys and then put it in Ohtani and Betts and maybe some cheap Pirates or something like that, that would be my favorite way of getting off of the Cubs chalk, in my opinion, over the Astros. I'd much rather attack Harrison than Bassett.
Yeah, no, I understand that for sure when you're looking at the fly ball rates too and how much power this team has. All right. Mookie Betts just off to a scorching. He got on base, had a stolen base, and scored already on Tuesday night. Just Mookie Betts is worth the price of admission right now for the Dodgers. All right, let's play the morning grind game, and then we'll get out of here. Again, 8-year anniversary show tomorrow, special guest co-host, so tune in for that. And there will be a Grinders Live and a Crunch Time for the 6-game early slate. We got day baseball tomorrow. It's a super fun slate from like, I haven't dug into it a lot, but like we have Cole Reagans against Corbin Burns. Like that's fun. Zach Wheeler against the Reds. That's fun. So a lot of potential spots there. Strider's on the slate against the White Sox. So some high-end arms. So that early slate's going to be fun. So make sure
you had me on for the garbage slate, Stevie.
No, I mean, I don't think the slate's bad. I think this slate was a lot better for what it's worth with Scoble on it. When we lost Scoble, it just kind of stunk. So anyway, that's how it rolls sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. All right, morning grind game. DraftKings pricing under 8,000 to get 6 or more strikeouts. Who do you got today?
Hauser.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the other side of that game and go Mr. Mize. Over 8K to score under 15. Who's your bust today?
No, I guess it's got to be Bassett. I'll go Bassett.
All right, I'm gonna go Keller. Over 4,000 to hit a home run. Who's going yard?
I will go with Brian Reynolds.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah, I do too. I might look up his odds tomorrow.
Yeah, he's not like a massive home run guy, so he's easily somebody that could fly under the radar here. I hate to do it, but I mean, I feel like I'm just going to take the free square for the home run today and give me Cody Bellinger against Cal Quantrill. I don't care what the weather's doing. They're playing baseball in Chicago. I'm in on the Cubs today. That's where I'm at. That's where my head's at with that one. So yeah, I like that a lot. Under 4,000 to get 2 hits. Who's a cheap bat that you like to get 2 hits today?
I'll go with Eddie Rosario.
Yeah, I mean, could potentially have a really strong lineup spot too, depending on the injuries there and whether or not a couple people play or not. But yeah, I'm gonna go Kerry Carpenter. I think I said him yesterday. Didn't I? Chat, did I say him yesterday against Hauser and then they didn't play? I'm pretty sure I said Carpenter yesterday on the podcast. I did. I just looked at it. So there you go. Stack to score 6 or more runs. Who do you got?
I don't want to take the 2 obvious ones, so I want to take the Pirates.
The Pirates, yeah. I mean, listen, it's the Cubs. And this answer is the Cubs. I'm not going to say the Cubs. I'm going to have some fun here and say Houston, but it's the Cubs. It's the Cubs. It's the Cubbies. If they play and they're good to go, it's the Cubs. All right. I looked and there wasn't any player props up yet.
Yeah, I didn't
at all. Which I mean, we're running into a problem with a lot when it comes to baseball, which kind of stinks. I will say that I'll definitely be looking at Trevor Williams outs prop. If it's anything under 15 or over 15, I love that. His first start of the season, so if it comes in at 14.5, I'll probably take the under on Trevor Williams. I don't think he makes 5 innings in this game. I'll be looking at Cal Quantrill's strikeouts. I don't think they'll give it to us at 3.5 again, but maybe they do. So I definitely like that one. And Christian Javier is another guy that I want to look at as strikeout prop. Hoping it comes in at 5.5. Probably comes in at 6.5. But I really like it, the over on 4.5. But I mean, I'd probably still take the over on 5.5 too. I think this is a really good spot today for Christian Javier. Any game lines that you like here?
So Brian Reynolds' home run odds are 390. That's not as good as I was hoping. So I'm probably going to stay away from that one. I do like the where do they go? Yeah. So I like the over 9 in the Pirates Nats game.
Over 9 in the Pirates Nats game. Okay, yeah, I don't mind that.
Yeah, it's plus it's even money on DK right now.
I like the Dodgers minus 1.5. I got this. I think I got this at minus 115 on the Hard Rock. I bet this 45 minutes ago when I was doing research for the podcast. So like the Dodgers minus 1.5 today. I listen. Harrison's a fly ball guy. Glasnow is a guy that has got really good control and really good stuff just overall. So I think the Dodgers win this game. So give me the Dodgers minus 1.5 today. Tim, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Congrats on 8 years, Stevie. That's awesome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Good for you.
Yeah. It's been a fun ride. I'm not going anywhere. For anybody that's curious, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be back on Thursday after the anniversary show on Wednesday. Or Wednesday night or Friday. Be back on Friday after the anniversary show for Thursday. So, hey, I was really hoping to get a nice little 3-0 night again on Scores and Odds, but man, Darvish is just getting these easy ground ball outs, and he's going to get over his outs prop. So maybe a 2-1 night, 6-1 for the last 2 days, pretty good. Hope everyone has a fantastic Wednesday. We're back Thursday. If you can hang out with us live, do it. Grab some swag, grab some premium, and I think you guys will like the special guest. It's going to be a fun show. Have a good one, everyone. We'll see you again tomorrow.